This is episode number 22 of the Silvertrac Extra.
Thanks for tuning in to the Silvertrac Extra, your source for the best tips, tricks, and how-tos to dominate the security industry, helping you improve your business, win more contracts, and crush your competition. Here are your hosts, Chris Anderson and Johnny Page.
What's up, everybody? Johnny Page here, co-host of the Silvertrac Extra, and today we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to incident reports. And it may seem like this is a subject that we cover more frequently than others, and that's just because there is so much importance placed on the incident report, especially when it comes to representing your company to your customers. So we're going to get right to it. I won't waste any time here. First, we're going to head to our sponsors over at Paperless Proposal. Then we'll jump straight into the featured conversation.
Developed for mid to large security companies, Paperless Proposal is the #1 enterprise-level cloud-based proposal creation and management solution. Use it to create, send, track, and manage highly customized proactive or RFP proposals. Differentiate your company and win more business with this powerful proposal generation software that can include office files, video, templates, pricing tools, CRM integration, and e-signature approval. Contact us for a free demo at www.paperlessproposal.com/Silvertrac.
What's up, Silvertrac Nation? We're here on the featured conversation of episode number 22, and today we're talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of security incident reports. And Chris, this is something that every single officer has done. Hopefully we see more good reports than we do ugly, but it seems this is an issue that we can't quite get away from in the security industry, huh?
No, it's usually bad reports. That's why we're in the business we're in, right? Help
Yeah,
these
right.
guys create better reporting. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so what we found over time and through experience, through several conversations, there are some common characteristics of quality reports, and then there's some common characteristics of some really poor reports or some of the more common problems that we see popping up. So today we're going to go through some of those good and the bad qualities or characteristics of an incident report to hopefully give you a better idea of the process of writing a report and making sure that all the necessary information is included. And again, we'll emphasize here, as an officer, this is one of the best ways to highlight your expertise in the industry. It's a great way to forward yourself, to improve your craft, and to really put yourself in a position to be one of the better paid officers, to get the posts that you're looking for, and to really just be advance your career, right, Chris?
Absolutely. I mean, they say, John, a good report is accurate and specific, factual, objective, clear, and complete, and concise. So, Silvertrac Nation, are you doing that? Right? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. So let's hit some of the common problems or some of the bad characteristics that we see in an incident report. And this is not just our opinion, but this is what comes up in court cases, in conversations with your customers. And number one, Chris, it's difficult. A bad characteristic of an incident report is that it's confusing to someone who wasn't there. Like they fail to really paint a clear picture of what was happening for that particular event.
Yeah, not only do they have to be organized and written correctly, you can't use the crayon, John. You know, and I laugh when I say that, but I've actually had guards use crayon to write this report. So,
wow, that's incredible. Yeah,
so, an actual crayon. I had to share that with you.
So maybe we should go back and say first use hopefully don't even use a pen or a pencil. Use Silvertrac, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to go paperless. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we're writing an incident report, we need to make sure that we're taking a clear note of the time of the day, the location. We want to really try and paint a picture so if someone who wasn't there can put themselves there on site and understand what was happening. That leads to making sure that we're presenting our thoughts in an organized manner. When we fail to do that and we're kind of jumping all over the place, it really makes it difficult to understand the series of events that took place during that particular incident. One strategy that we can put in place before you go to enter the report or to write the report, whether you're using like a a software to do this, or even just write in the report, try and detail out some of the relevant information in sort of like an outline. Just make a little notes to yourself so that you can reorganize and put things in place so that it flows and tells a story that someone else can read and understand.
Yeah, and the real simple, real easy way to do it, John, is there's not enough detail. So always put it this way: who, what, when, where, and why. And then the other one would be and how. It's very simple. Just remember that again: who, what, when, where, and why, and how. It's a good foundation to kind of help you through that process.
Yeah, and so when we're answering those questions, another characteristic of a bad report is that we're not clear and concise. You don't want to ramble on, but we obviously want to write in the pertinent details for what went down on the site. We also want to avoid, obviously, seems one notorious for the industry, poor grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Look, almost all of us are carrying around smartphones. Make sure, whether you just have to type this into Google, make sure that we have like the appropriate grammar, punctuation, and spelling. As an officer, there's not something that hurts your credibility more than just improper punctuation, grammar, and spelling. Look, we don't have to write a high quality essay here, but we need to make sure that we're spelling the basic words correctly.
Yeah, well, this is the industry too. We can't afford to hire college graduates, right? So the industry is what it is, and that's why we use the tools, or we look for the tools that'll help us with that. So we have software out there, obviously Silvertrac, to make sure those things are already set up, make it very simple for them. The location, the address, and the unit, and so on. So this eliminates a lot of the problems. And then to be able to leave a good audio file, we can eliminate the writing aspect and shorten their time.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we want to avoid, and we've talked about this before in writing a quality daily activity report, I believe that was episode number 13, but we want to make sure we're not using terms, abbreviations, or acronyms that the readers may not be familiar with. So understand that it's not just your supervisor that's going to read this report. It is going to be the customer. It could be the police. It could be several different bodies that are going to read this report. So we don't want to include things like code 4 or I'm not too familiar with him, but we don't want to go into all of the abbreviations or the lingo of the industry that would prohibit someone from reading the report and understanding what was going on.
Yeah, they call those the 10 codes, Johnny, like 10.4 and 10.2 and 10.3. It's police terms, and you're absolutely right. That's the worst thing you could do on a 4 report. And if you want to lose a client, they don't understand them.
Yeah, and last, we want to make sure that there's not some inconsistency throughout the reports. So make sure that from a factual standpoint that you're consistent on what happened, and we'll talk about like not making assumptions, remaining factual. So this is a good lead into the characteristics of a good report. And first, Chris, that's being accurate and specific.
Absolutely. Accurate, specific, factual, and objective, and making sure everything is clear, right?
Yeah, and we'll spend some time going into future episodes about what it means to be some tips for being accurate and specific, for being factual. What's the difference between assuming, making assumptions, drawing conclusions, and just presenting the facts? How do we remain objective and all that? So our goal here is to really equip the security operator and their officers to really help elevate the quality of their incident reports, because that really has a positive reflection on their relationship with the customer.
Yeah, with the managers and people we were dealing with, you got to find out what they want, right? That'll help you with your reporting. What things do they need to have reported? And if you're going to report it, what facts do you need to deliver to them so they can make a better decision themselves or solve the problem?
Chris, has a quality incident report ever saved your rear when you were in the security industry?
Oh yeah, let me tell you, not only a quality incident report, but picture and photograph many times, because people, they have a tendency to beat up our guards. So think about like in an average apartment community with 500 people there, right, and one guard. 500 people, the ability to report or complain about your guard. You got to have detail. You really do.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because of the industry, and there's just several poor operators out there. It kind of gives a bad name for a lot of the others. But what you find is that you just don't get the benefit of the doubt a lot of the time. Yeah. And so you need to articulate when you are doing a good job, because it's not just by default assumed that you're doing a great job, right? It's kind of assumed that you're doing the opposite, right?
Yeah, well, let's do this. Let's just go back to an example for a disturbance for an apartment, right? Typically, we go to a disturbance when we were doing the writing, right, on paper. We'd knock on the door, try to get a clear name. Usually you're dealing with a visitor, right? Not really the resident that was at the door that you really need to talk to. Everybody's lying to you. Everybody has the same name. It's Dave, right? Of course. Nobody gives you the last name, and it's a very short conversation. Then what happens with that, the manager gets that report, then she has to do the follow-up, and maybe you have a correct unit, or maybe you have the wrong building, but she, in other words, she can't do any follow-up with that. So what she has to do is she has to call your office, and your office is calling the guard to wake him up. So you see how that affects? It affects the entire business on that. That's simple. So when we got into Silvertrac, and the reason why I built that is being able to put the correct building, the addresses, the units, allow the residents to register, so we had good information already in hand, so we can make the decision at the right place at the right time immediately using that tool, which eliminated that, right, the question for the manager. So when she got it, she heard the voice, knew the building was correct, knew that the information from the resident was correct because it was already previously submitted on a registration. So it changed the entire way we were doing business, that quality reporting, and anybody can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so one of the cool techniques that I've seen in place among some of our customers is they'll go out, and when the officer is collecting the incident or right there in the field, they'll use the audio notes feature to go ahead and make a 1-minute audio file on everything that happened. They can explain it because it takes only a minute to get quite a bit of information versus having to type it out, making sure that it's all the way in the right format. So you do the audio file when you're in the field, then whether it's the dispatcher that writes up the official report or a supervisor, but they have all of the details there, and the officer was able to collect a lot in a little amount of time. He's not there with like a little notepad scratching down like the color of the shirt, the person's name, because oftentimes emotions are high, especially depending on the incident, and it's hard to think clearly. So when you can just for 1 minute focus, put in the audio note, take a couple of quick notes in the handheld, send the issue off, you can come back in and do a more well-documented incident report with all of the relevant details there in the audio file.
Yeah, they say, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right?
Totally.
So a picture and then an audio file. And John, what's great that the technology, you guys, you got to get in there and think about this. What about the maintenance side with machine noises? Right? Do you realize I've had maintenance guys being able to make a good decision, and a fine example is the Chevron oil fields out there, which was a client, they had to drive miles, John, 50, 75 miles out to these machines, and they were able to open up our tool, record the machine noise, send it back to the actual director of maintenance, and he could listen to it and go, oh, that's a bearing, just go ahead and shut it down. Or let it continue to run, we'll get it fixed tomorrow, that's just a seal, right? And view pictures and make those kind of decisions just looking at the report. Getting back to the property manager, the ability to hear the noise. Is it really truly well above normal apartment living conditions, or was it just somebody just lightly listening to music, right? So big things with reporting if you use it right.
If you want more information on some of the good characteristics and bad characteristics of an incident report, visit our show notes here for this episode. This is episode number 22, so you can go to silvertracsoftware.com/22 for episode number 22. Leave us a comment there. You'll have access to listen to this episode in iTunes or in Stitcher. You can subscribe in both those places. Of course, we really appreciate when you share your feedback with us and across social media. So keep up that good work. Chris, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, guys, just keep reporting. Use your technology. Keep your clients.
Awesome. Yeah, and be sure to check back. Like I said, this is going to be a series. So next week, we'll be releasing one just on some more of the details of some good qualities and good characteristics to include when you're writing these incident reports. So for now, I'm Johnny Page.
I'm Chris Anderson.
This was the Silvertrac Extra, and we'll talk to you soon.
This has been another episode of the Silvertrac Extra. For more insider information, visit silvertracsoftware.com/extra. Listen on the go by subscribing in iTunes. Want to hear your questions answered on the show? Visit silvertracsoftware.com/questions to submit your requests.